Today I will talk about our current cities, new cities being built right now, and the future of cities. First, let me define the term city. According to Merriam-Webster, a city is an inhabited place of greater size, population, or importance than a town or village. For the purposes of this video, I will define a city as a densely populated area where multiple issues arise such as space requirements, transportation, sustainability, and environmental effects. 50% of the world's population already lives in cities, and in the next 30 years, that number will rise to 70%. The current cities have issues with air and noise pollution, while traffic jams and commutes frustrate millions of people daily. Fuel costs continue to rise, and we pollute the environment with little regard for long-term effects. Cities and housing are not built to reflect nature's tried and tested improvements for over 4 billion years. The Earth is round, the planets are round, and the motions of the planets around the Sun are elliptical. Even the surface of the Earth is not actually flat. Yet we build our housing and cities in square shapes and patterns. When you were a kid, did you ever have the game where you put the different shapes into their corresponding holes? I remember, and I know that a square did not fit into the circle. Later on, we will show some examples of TVP's domes and city designs. But you might say, why is it a dome shape? Or what is the big deal with domes? As Roxanne Meadows put it, you already live in a dome. Nearly all species on Earth have evolved round or dome-shaped heads, which protect their brains. Domes are the combined lightest and strongest form of protection. The cities we have today tend to be reactive, not proactive. Nearly all cities were built next to water because we did not have the technology to transport water over long distances. Villages turned into towns, which eventually turned into bustling cities as people saw advantages in living in larger groups. Walking paths turned into dirt roads for horses, which turned into roads for wagons, and eventually asphalt roadways for motor vehicles. This is a reactive method of managing transportation. What I am interested in is for us to begin creating cities in a proactive manner, rather than just reacting to the needs as they're realized. Being proactive is actually a luxury we now have, which is due to the current state of technology and the relatively high standard of living we enjoy. Humans now have the capabilities to plan far in advance different methods of solving our global issues. I would even say that we have the responsibility to do so. Let me show you some examples of how different countries are attempting to tackle some of the issues I just discussed. There are many new cities popping up over the world with intentions to improve upon the shortcomings of today's cities. One example is Masdar City. This is a quote from their website. Abu Dhabi has embarked on a 2-decade program to transform its economy from one based on natural resources to one based on knowledge, innovation, and the export of cutting-edge technologies. Guiding this transformation is a document called the Abu Dhabi Economic Vision 2030, which provides a comprehensive plan including the steps to be taken to transform the Emirates' economy over the next 2 decades. Key goals include increasing the non-oil share of the economy from approximately 40% to more than 60%, and significantly diversifying the scope of economic activity to include priority sectors such as education, banking, finance, tourism, pharmaceuticals, media, aviation and aerospace, transportation, and logistics and manufacturing in areas such as aluminum and petrochemicals. It also puts a strong emphasis value-added knowledge-based industries such as renewable energy and sustainable technologies. This is a nice statement, but as usual, a 20% change away from oil in the next 20 years is a very small improvement, especially considering they built an entire city from scratch and only claim to intend a 20% improvement on their dependency towards oil. This is a picture of a concept art for World Expo Kazakhstan. I was intrigued by this picture, but it turns out it is for the World Expo in 2017. It is supposed to be 100% wind and solar powered. As you can see, the design looks aesthetically pleasing, and it has a circular configuration to allow a more efficient movement between buildings and events. There are a few other examples, and while they are improvement, they do not go far enough. This is where the Venus Project comes in. Here is a short video on the Venus Project city's design.
The circular scheme or plan brings each district closer to the central dome, which contains the medical, food, shopping, everything else that people need. The circular arrangement makes it easier to operate using far less energy than any other system. And if you start at one end of the city and go through the city, you always return at the same place. Whereas in a linear city, you go to one end, you have to backtrack to get to the same point. So the circular scheme is by far the most efficient. And when cities are contracted in the future, they will be contracted as a whole, as an entire system. In that way, all of the parts and components would be delivered in stages. Like sequel 1 will be the underground, the heating system, the electric generators, the piping systems, the recycling systems. Then after that, the next layer, which would serve as the first layer that contains the architecture, the foundations for all the buildings, and after that, the erection of structures up from the foundations, starting with the central portion of the city, working its way out to the different radial sectors, and then out to the final housing sectors, and then to the agricultural belt, and then to the recreation areas. The cities themselves are prefabricated. Most of the elements that comprise the structures of the cities are interchangeable, interlocking. They are designed so they can be disassembled just as they were assembled. So the new cities will be updated continuously. As the waters are piped into the cities, they are checked. And to whatever extent contamination exists, the water processing plants evaporate the water, recondense it, and cleanse it. In other words, all waters piped into the city will be monitored constantly, not by a monitoring system, but several monitoring systems. The same is true of the air above and around the city. It's constantly monitored. All of the rooftops are photovoltaic. All of the outer skin of the building converts solar radiation into electrical energy. As we move beyond the third sector, we come to tennis courts, parks. Beyond that is the residential district, which consists of lakes, waterfalls, all kinds of beautiful plants throughout the area. And each house is concealed by plants so you can't see another building. Some people prefer, as in the next sector, to live in apartment houses. The apartments have drama groups, recreation swimming pools, discussion groups, and so many other facilities. The disadvantage of living in a private home is you would have to go to the various places to access the same things. Instead of motor vehicles in the city, all transportation is carried on by circular conveyors that we call transveyors. They move radially, circumferentially, and vertically. They serve the function of elevators, buses, conveyors. But if you wish to go to another city, you can take an elevator down beneath the central dome, which has maglev trains, etc., that will transport you to the center of any other city or any other region. There will be no waste products, just as in nature there are no waste products. All materials that we would formerly call waste would be recycled and converted into new products. And that when the city hits a certain number of people, we stop the development and let everything go back to nature between this and the next city. It doesn't mean that we can solve all the problems. We can just design and build a far better environment to advance all human beings.
Jacques' designs are based upon the shape of a gear and the workings of the human body, a systems approach to designing cities that can realistically be scaled to the entire world population, which is now at 7 billion. No other design so far has even considered all the world's population, while also living in accordance with the Earth's carrying capacity. We are, after all, on an island hurling through space. We have limited resources and must proactively design cities and systems that account for efficiency. None of the new cities you see today are scalable to the entire Earth, other than the Venus Project. That is why I continue to support TVP and its global network of volunteers. One last thought. This home in Pensacola Beach, Florida, withstood a hurricane that leveled every house around it. Not surprisingly, the houses around this home were rebuilt again, just as they were before. You may not be fond of dome-style housing, but that is due to your environment. Nearly all of us have grown up in these square cities and houses, So it's understandable that we are not immediately adopting newer styles of housing. But why do we continue to build fragile homes in areas where hurricanes and other dangerous weather occur? Humans have the capability to change their minds and values in a split second, but only if they're provided with accurate data to work with. That is the reason we are here, to provide information that can give humans the opportunity to change their minds. If you would like to help out the show, donate via PayPal on the main website. Head to thevenusproject.com, click Donate, TVP Education, click on PayPal, and enter your information. Thank you for your support.